Hello, this is Inside the Press Box with Sunil Sunder Raj for the Everyday Fan Sports. I'm happy to be speaking with head coach Nate Milne of the Muhlenberg College Mules football team. Coach Milne, thank you for taking some time out to speak with me this morning. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us here. It's great to talk football and happy to be back for the 2021 season.
Yes, indeed, Coach. You're only a couple days away, Saturday, September 4th, there at Scotty Wood Stadium. Kickoff against the college in New Jersey. I guess, first and foremost, Coach, how everything's been working out, so far here in training camp, during the summer, with the 2021 team.
Yeah, it was a good training camp. It was a long training camp. Our student athletes just started classes yesterday. And so we had a very long camp for us, almost 2 straight weeks of nothing but football. And after such a long 2020 year, I think that will be beneficial for our student athletes. There's always that fine line of how hard you're going to push them, making sure that you stay healthy throughout training camp. But for us to kind of focus on the details, for our student athletes to be able to watch themselves on film and really be able to focus on football for a couple of weeks, because once classes start here at Muhlenberg, their attention goes right to the classroom. We have some of the best and brightest student athletes in the country here, and we know how important their classes are, and that takes precedence. So for us to get that big block of football kind of out of the way, and now let them focus on their studies, we felt like was a wonderful training camp. Most of our guys stayed healthy. We've got a couple of nicks and bangs and bruises like everybody, but that's kind of the way football is. And I think we've avoided the catastrophic injury here during preseason. So hopefully we can keep that up for the regular season.
Can you just talk about, preparing for the season, as you alluded to after this past year, with the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 season, basically, so getting sheltered, Coach Milne, in terms of, as we know, football, it's a 24/7, 365 as far as, there's never a day off. So can you just talk about, again, preparing for the 2021 season?
It certainly was unique for us. As I mentioned, that fine line of what our student athletes were ready for, what they were prepared for when they arrived. We have a wonderful strength and conditioning coach in Darren Thomas, who gave our student athletes a program to follow throughout the pandemic and obviously over the summer. And so I felt like our players came back in good shape, which is kind of mission number one, is to make sure that they're in football shape and ready to go. And then I felt as though it was as new for half of our team. Again, the sophomores had never gone through a true training camp as well. And so I think many of those freshmen and sophomores kind of hit that mental wall, that mental block a couple days into training camp. And so we had to kind of push through and fight through that with our players and let them know that we got to be a little bit tougher throughout the preseason here. We gave them a couple of days off to rest and relax, and I think they really appreciated that. So it's always a fine line of pushing through and make sure your players are in shape and making sure you're getting everything off that checklist that us coaches have, and also listening to your players, your athletic training staff. We've got a wonderful support group here, and making sure that our student athletes do have that balance to make sure that they're rested and recovered each and every single day.
It's great. I wanted to ask you, I was looking last night online with the Centennial Conference, preseason poll. You were selected number one. It said received 151 votes, followed by John Hopkins, then Susquehanna and Franklin and Marshall. So this team, I looked at the roster, Coach Milne. I counted, I think, almost 52, upperclassmen. This is an experienced group. So if you just want to as far as players that, you're counting on, it takes, of course, an entire team, but, what it's going to take, for, to have another, successful season, winning record, this year and, go far, in the postseason here.
I think the preseason poll is a testament to where we have been as a football program. But I don't know if there's been a more wide open year in the Centennial Conference than there is this year. We know all the teams return a lot of players, and we know every team, just like ours, has a lot of unknowns with individuals who need to step up into bigger roles and individuals who maybe we're going to count on and didn't quite show up the way that they want to. Our team is going to be built maybe a little bit different than we were in years past. I think in 2019, we were kind of built from the inside out. Our defensive line returned almost everybody, and our offensive line had a couple of returners back. And now this year, we're going to be focused on those skill sets. In the secondary, starting defensively, we returned John Washington, all-region performer from Philadelphia, William Penn Charter High School in Philadelphia, and just an outstanding player. He's been a starter since day one. He arrived on our campus. And then on the other side, many of your followers will be familiar with Nick Sirico, who was named captain from Riverdale High School. Nick is back for his super senior year. Nick has had some amazing moments here. We coined the term a Nick Six. DJ Nymphius, his coach, texted us that one. He had an interception for a touchdown to win the Delaware Valley game in 2018 in the playoffs. And so he's back again for another outstanding season. And then we have a couple more guys battling it out in the secondary there. But Jay McGill is going to be another player that we're going to rely on. Offensively, and our linebacking core is deep as well, not to just diminish those guys. Anthony Sargenti from Ramapo High School, Patrick Palmer from Bergen Catholic are going to be guys that we're going to rely on. And then one of our other captains, Joshua Barnett from Virginia, are just three of the outstanding players that we're going to rely on in that linebacking core. And then offensively, John Washington, as I mentioned, our starting cornerback, his high school teammate, Mike Netkowski, is our returning quarterback, also from the Philadelphia area at William Penn Charter High School. And so he was as good as it gets in 2019. He's coming back for a fifth year and was named captain again for us. So we expect big things from him. On the edge, Michael Feaster, the last of the Feaster brothers from Bergen Catholic, again, was named captain for us and had a very good sophomore season in 2019. And we expect him to have a really, really big breakout year at the wide receiver position this year. So those are just a handful of guys that will look to have some major roles for us in the 2019 season.
It's terrific. I was going to get into as far as like before we came on the air, we're talking about players from New Jersey and especially Bergen County. I see on the roster players from different states. Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. It said New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Maryland, Virginia. So I mean, it's as far as the recruiting. Coach Milne, said it's heavily here in the Northeast. Can you talk about that? Just diving into those states and so be able to select those those players from those various states.
Sure. It is first and foremost, we start with academics. And Muhlenberg is one of the very best colleges in the entire country. And so that's the first thing we're going to look at. Where is a young man? What does he want to study? What's their transcript look like? And then if they have test scores, I know the SAT and the ACT have been a little bit of different these last couple of years with COVID and pandemic. So that's where we're going to start. And so that's, I think, why we have kind of such a broad range of where we are in the Northeast. And you'll see some of the best high schools throughout the country listed on our roster. And all these young men are going to be well above 3.0, better than a B+ average. Most of them are going to be over 1,200 on the SAT score as well. So that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to reach out to their high school coaches and say, who do you got that's a great student? And then are they a great football player? Bergen County and New Jersey have been wonderful for us. Again, a couple of reasons. Muhlenberg, besides being known for a wonderful theater program, we have accounting, business, finance, and many of our individuals will end up going to work on Wall Street. And so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. If their parents are working in New York City, they understand that lifestyle. And Muhlenberg offers those type of academic programs here. And And we're dealing in Bergen County with many second generation college students. And we find that in a lot of ways that's been a niche area for us. And so there is a great deal of a place on higher education in Bergen County. And so it's great football, it's great demographics for us. And so we're excited to keep that pipeline going. And then to build further south, we've got a couple of guys from DC and Virginia, an area that's really exploding with a population boom down there. I know Amazon's put in a lot of money down there. And so again, there's a big population boom, and we've been trying to dig in there and find some really good student athletes down in the DMV.
It's great. I don't want to forget, I was going to get into the schedule, for the season, but I don't want to forget about your coaching staff. Coach Milne, said defensive coordinator Corey David, Nick Uliano, defensive line, Trey Brown, special teams coordinator, Ryan Curtis and Eric Heiner, linebackers coach, Jeremy Estremera, wide receivers coach, Brett Sawyer, tight ends, Maurice Stallings, running backs coach. Can you just talk about this coaching staff and just what they've meant to you, and just, as far as just preparing, for this season as well, Coach?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have a dynamic football staff, and I appreciate you asking about them. Corey David, I'll start there with our defensive coordinator. He's as good as it gets in the country. Corey and I have worked together not only here at Muhlenberg, but at Cortland as well. So our relationship goes back many years, and he handles all of the defensive things. I'm an offensive coach. And I coach the offensive line, but Corey handles everything on the defensive side of the ball. And he's pretty much another head coach on that side of the ball. And then Trey Brown as well. Trey Brown has been a Division III head football coach. This is his second time at Muhlenberg, working with the quarterbacks and the special teams. And so to have two guys on our staff like that, Corey, again, has a wealth of knowledge. Corey worked with the Philadelphia Eagles for a number of years. And then Trey being a head football coach in Division III, I have a wealth of knowledge to kind of work with those individuals. We've got a good blend of young coaches. Coach Estremera is new on our staff. Coach Curtis was a three-time All-American for us out of Ramapo High School and has now joined us. Nick Uliana is new on the defensive staff. And so they're really finding out what college football is all about. Coach Sawyer is new to our staff, but not new to Muhlenberg. He's a Muhlenberg College alum, spent many years at the Division I level, took a couple of years off to focus on his family and a new career, and now he's back, and we're excited to have him. He's been at places at Penn, Lehigh, and Virginia, just to name a few. And then our longest tenured coaches as well, Coach Stallings and Coach Heiner, are also part-time coaches here, but they've been with me throughout. So to have some continuity on staff with those two coaches really benefits our student athletes, where they can have coaches to sound off and to talk to throughout their duration.
That's great. I didn't want to forget one player, I think also that was named, I believe, a team captain, as well as Christian Nazari, I think from Ramapo High School as well, Coach Milne.
Yeah, Christian's there, yes, from Ramapo, has been a wonderful young man. Again, also coming back for his fifth year, and has really done a wonderful job managing here at Muhlenberg College. And what I mean by that is he's been a role player. The last couple of years, as I mentioned, 2019, we had maybe the best defensive line in the country. And Christian was a role player and excelled in that role. And now that those players have graduated, his leadership has gone through the roof and really made a great footprint on our program. And our student athletes recognize that. He does a great job in the weight room. He's very open about his life. And so our players can see and talk to him. And so you talk about senior leaders being able to influence others. I think Christian offers that. And then showing them the way and being someone that even freshmen and sophomores can find relatable. Sometimes teams struggle when their upperclassmen are kind of off on their own and their freshmen are off on their own. Christian has done a wonderful job, I think, blending our young players and our veteran players as well, and done a wonderful job. And obviously, he grew up with Coach Curtis on our staff, and so to have two Ramapo players here and Anthony Sargenti from Ramapo, as we all know, one of the best programs with Coach Gibbs there. And so to have some of those players here, I think speaks volumes about who we are.
I was just wondering, you talked about the Feaster brothers, Michael, said being on this team, but, of course, his brothers, John and Frankie, but, talk about Frankie, said setting the school record, for most career sacks and, single season, record, said with sacks as well with 17 and a half. And can you talk about, previous play? I mean, I know there are a bunch of players that, said have meant a lot to you, but can you just talk about Frankie Feaster and, what he did for this program, Coach Milne?
Yeah, it's the Feaster family. John was first, and so and was named captain here, and they're all really unique. I think Frankie knew he wanted to be here. He kind of grew up on Muhlenberg's campus, watching John play. And Michael, we gave a little bit of more space. I didn't want to pressure Michael and say, "Hey, your brothers both came here. Obviously, you're going to come here." So we recruited Michael a little bit differently than maybe John and Frankie. And Frankie's been wonderful for us. He's been a great player and now a great ambassador. He'll work out with the Giants this past year, and now is working back at Bergen Catholic, and honestly was one of our very best players to come through here. Was a two-sport athlete. I don't know if a lot of people saw his lacrosse statistics, but he was a great lacrosse player as well for us. And so we were super excited that the Feasters have three boys and that they all chose to attend Muhlenberg College. It's been a great relationship. And I think that what we tell many of our families during the recruiting process is we like to point out our families. Not only is it the Feaster family, but the Kierans, Max Kieran and Spencer Kieran. And so what we say is if one of them is having a quality experience at Muhlenberg, they trust to send their other child. These are, again, as I mentioned, the best and the brightest student athletes in the country. Spencer could have gone to many colleges. Michael Feaster could have gone to many colleges. But the fact that we earned their trust with their other children, I think that's maybe one of the things that we're most proud of here at Muhlenberg, is that we've seen so many families decide to send their children here. And it's across the board. We've had twin players on our soccer team. We've had brothers and sisters on ladies lacrosse, and then football. And so we've got a number of siblings come through Muhlenberg College, and I think that says a lot about who we are as an institution, as much as anything about who we are as a football program.
Yeah, that's great. I just have a couple more. Can't thank you for the time, Coach Milne. When you look at the schedule, just wanted to get your perspective on it. It said, of course, John Hopkins, Franklin and Marshall on that, Susquehanna. John Hopkins on a Friday night, I think October 7th at 7 p.m. It's Scotty Wood Stadium. So I know it's your main focus right now is on this weekend, against the college in New Jersey. But when you look at the schedule, just what stands out to you, Coach, and just in terms of that.
I'm really excited about the Centennial Conference. This is a new schedule for us. Again, as you mentioned, our focus is on TC&J.
Yeah.
Coach Goff and his staff have done a wonderful job. They're stealing some of our players from Bergen County. They're doing a good job, really good job recruiting as well. And so our focus is on them. But I'm excited for the Centennial Conference schedule this year. Again, first time that we'll have Hopkins on a Friday night. Every time we play a Friday night game, it gives our players a little bit of a buzz. We played Ursinus a couple of years ago on a Friday night, and that was exciting. And a few years back, our season opener was on a Friday night. So I think our players resort back to their families when they were in high school. And then obviously we finished with our rivalry game against Moravian every single year. And then to switch it up and have Susquehanna later in the year, we've been playing them week 3 for a number of years, and now to finish up and see a change in our schedule. You always kind of look at that and see how things play out. But all that matters is if those games are going to mean anything week 2, week 3, week 4, So we got to go 1-0 this week with PCNJ.
I have to ask you, Coach Milne, you were named the head coach, it said Muhlenberg, it said back in 2017. It said 2018, 2019, 24-3 record. Leading, it said the Mules, said to the NCAA quarterfinals for the first time, and then the NCAA semifinals. I mean, to see that, and then finishing up in the rankings, Division III, the top 10, and then named, Coach of the Year by the Centennial Conference. I mean, to know that how much you've been able to build a successful program just in a short amount of time, a short duration. I have to ask you what that means to you. I know that you're, of course, concentrating on 2021, but just to know that you've had this level of success. I mean, what just, what comes to your mind, Coach Milne?
I don't know. I tell our players all the time, we look back on it 10 years from now, and I think it'll mean more than it does today.
Yeah.
We like to live in the moment. We focus internally on ourselves. And I think our 2018 success was really a culmination of some good recruiting years. And that was with Coach Donnelly here as a head football coach. We have a great fundraiser, or not a great fundraiser. We have great volunteer work this weekend on our campus on Friday, September 3rd, with the Andy Talley Bone Marrow Foundation and Be the Match, the National Marrow Registry. So we do a bone marrow kind of registration drive in Mike the Duke Donnelly's name every single year. So that'll be Friday before our home opener. Okay. And so he really built this program. And so I felt our staff and our players and our administration, everybody felt that we needed to honor him and to keep this thing going. And so I know you never want to be the man to replace the man, as they say. There's a lot of pressure, but you don't rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our training. And so Duke was able to train us really well. We set a high standard for ourselves, and right now, I think we're meeting expectations through 2 years. 2021 will be a unique beast. And so we'll kind of see where we go from there. 10 years from now, I think we'll look back and we'll say, wow, that was a great run. And hopefully we can keep it going here. And certainly I think my wife, Kristen, enjoyed going to some of those banquets and doing that kind of stuff with the tours. But I wear my rings. I don't wear any of that stuff. We say we're going to live in the moment. And so I have to lead and do that myself. So 10 years from now, somebody asked me, come back in 10 years and ask me how it feels. And it was a pretty cool run, I'm sure. But right now, all eyes are on the College of New Jersey and trying to get my offensive line to play where they need to against a really, really good defense there.
That's a great segue, because before you took over as head coach, you were the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. So I had to ask you, and definitely the team flourished, said as far as scoring wise and, yards per game. Can you talk about, before you became the head coach, said your 3 years again, there on the offensive side of the ball, Coach Milne?
Yeah, everybody's heard me say this before, and it ain't X's and O's, it's Johnny's and Joe's. We've had really good players. And I said that to a number of people on campus. I go, I think I'm a good recruiter. And that makes really good recruits make really good coaches. Alabama's really good for a reason. They get all their teams drafted in the first round every year. So we place a big emphasis on our recruiting. And so I think we've been fortunate to have some really good players come through here. Nick Palladino at quarterback, Nick Lamb and Ryan Delaney at wide receiver, Nick Savant at running back offensively, Willie Britt, Ryan Orville, Ryan Malarkey, Kyle Prisco, to name a few offensive linemen. I know we've had two of the best tight ends, and Ryan Curtis and Michael Long. And so we've had some really great players. And so we just say, hey, how are we going to get those guys to football? It isn't rocket science. Coaches make this game harder than it is. But if we have good players, let's just find ways to get them to football. And hopefully we'll be able to do that here this season as well. We have some good players, and hopefully we can find ways to get them to football, and hopefully we can keep recruiting and retaining some really good student athletes as well.
I was just wondering, as far as that Mules jersey, that helmet, as far as represent, for the players, what do you want, that statement to be? That, as far as building that culture and that, championship team.
Yeah, what we talk about is that dig in. Dig in is defined as the work ethic required to be successful at Muhlenberg College. It's not a football field, but it's also in the classroom. And so we think that we're going to have a great work ethic on the football field, in the classroom. And so if you see a team that's disciplined and that's going out there and playing hard every single week, having a ton of fun doing it as well, we tell our players this should be the best 2 hours of your day. When you come out there, you've got your best friends, and here at college, you're going to build lifelong relationships, and so I think that's what we're trying to strive for. They know they have to work on the football field. They know they have to work in the classroom, and we think that translates once they're done with their time here at Muhlenberg College, when they get out and they're looking for jobs, when they're going to be great husbands and they're going to be ambassadors in their community. Every single job requires a work ethic, and so that's trying to what we're trying to instill in our football team.
Yeah, I don't want to forget about the support, of course, from the administration, athletic department, director of athletics, Lynn Tubman, associate athletic director, Megan Petruno, and President Kathleen E. Herring. Can you just talk about, again, it takes, it's an entire system, really. Can you talk about that, Coach Milne?
It does. We've got to have it from top to bottom, and I'm fortunate to say that we have wonderful relationships with all of them. We don't always get our way, but to have those open lines of communication is critical. And so to have individuals who will listen and understand the president, President Herring, and her husband, are at most of our football games, and so to have their support means everything to our football program. Lynn Tubman, our director of athletics, this has been a wonderful relationship that we've been able to build. We kind of both arrived at the same time, and we've been really merging a lot of things together here with our football program, and she's been so supportive of us. From a alumni standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, and again, done a wonderful job in helping and supporting our student athletes. And then Megan Petruno does a wonderful job as well. She handles all of our compliance, all of our work study, and really she foresees problems before they happen. And so they've done an outstanding job supporting not only the football program, but all of our student athletes at Muhlenberg College as well. And the Muhlenberg community, when the president is showing up at athletic events and activities and our theater programs, that really that shows Muhlenberg cares about having some well-balanced students on campus. It's academics are first and foremost, but we need to have a balance of our students here in their extracurricular activities. And I know the president supports those fully.
Yeah, just as important, Coach Milne, is the facilities. We can talk about with Scotty Wood Stadium, but also with strength and conditioning, and just that I'm sure it plays a huge factor. Also, can you talk about that?
Yeah, we just put in new turf this past year here at Scotty Wood Stadium, and we're always making upgrades to our strength and conditioning facility. We have a wonderful facility for strength and conditioning. It overlooks the football field. We've got glass windows from top to bottom. And so when you're in that squat rack, you can overlook the stadium. When you are in on the top floor, getting some cardio in, you can take a look at that stadium and know that that's where you're going to perform, and you're trying to work your best down there. The best part of our strength and conditioning center is Darren Thomas, our director of strength and conditioning. He does a wonderful job with our student athletes. And that's a great place to invest as well. It doesn't only help our football team, but all of our sport. All our student athletes need to get in the weight room to get bigger, faster, and stronger. And so the college has done a wonderful job investing in that. We've got a couple of new facilities going in our weight room as well. We've got a field house for our student athletes to warm up and cool down in. And so we think we have everything. This isn't Michigan or Alabama or Clemson. But we have everything that we need to be successful here at Muhlenberg College. We don't make excuses about what we don't have. We're only going to focus on the things that we do have.
It's great. Just one of my few remaining questions, and I was looking at, again, so impressed by your background, I said in football, especially at the Division 3 level. And I'm wondering, I said, I think, spent over 15 years, I think I was reading, of playing and coaching. Just, I was going to ask you, what makes the game of football so special, but especially, I think, at the Division 3 level for you, Coach Milne.
Yeah, I think football has been a wonderful relationship for me. Throughout high school, I was able to develop meaningful relationships. And even in my family life, it was really important. And then the coaches were people who I think saw the best in me, maybe even when I didn't see the best in me, and pushed me to become better at high school and throughout college. And then in college, obviously at Hobart, had a wonderful academic experience there, an institution very, very similar to Muhlenberg. And so I think that's kind of where I thrive. But when I needed picking up and a kick in the butt, football was there. And when I needed to be humble, football was there for me. And so there's more than just football here. We tell our players it's more than just football. And so it's been great for us. And then for me, I don't know, I couldn't sit behind a desk for 24 hours a day. And so we have our football season. We get to go on the road recruiting. I get to meet with alumni and do some fundraising. And so we can focus on a lot of different areas. And so I think that helps me personally as well, to kind of get out there and see people and meet people. And then obviously there's the strategy. So I think football is wonderful. It's not a job. It's a profession where we have a passion for it. I think many coaches would say the same thing. Yeah. It challenges your mind, it challenges your body, it challenges your soul. They're hard discussions, they're great discussions with student athletes. When you have to tell a young man he's not playing, or when you see a young man get hurt, that challenges your soul. It takes a tug on you emotionally. The strategy of football challenges you mentally. And then obviously when you're out there in August and it's 90 degrees or 100 degrees, it's challenging you physically. So really it all encompasses your mind, body, and soul in one profession. And so it's been a great relationship. I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah. I had to ask you, you have some experience with the Canadian Football League as well. I had to ask you about that as well, Coach Milne, with the Montreal Alouettes as well. Can you talk about that time?
Yeah, so that was a guest coaching experience. Went up to Canada. The NFL has their Bill Walsh minority internship program. And the Canadians have, and the CFL have a similar program with bringing American coaches over to kind of learn the game. And that was unique to see their players, to see how they operated. And I think it allowed me to critically think about matchups a little bit different. When you get to that level, everybody is really good and everybody is really talented, as you see in the NFL and the CFL and maybe even at Division 1. Mm-hmm. And so it's about how are you creating matchups for your players, whether it be on the offensive line, whether it's a running back versus a linebacker, or trying to get a receiver onto a linebacker. And so to hear their coaches talk, and I was very young, I was 25, 24, 25 maybe, at the time when I went up there. And so to kind of get that immersion in just how their coaches talk. Football's football, right? You're blocking and you're tackling and you're throwing and you're running and you're catching. Mm-hmm. They have an extra guy out there. The field's a little bit bigger, but to hear them talk about their matchups, I think that was something that changed some of the plays that I've ran as an offensive coordinator, and then how we go about recruiting and finding some of the little things with our student athletes here and say, how can we get this person in this role? It's not about in some cases being good at everything, but finding that niche role for a player and then allowing them to build themselves up as well. It was awesome. We got to play in the Sky Dome. I don't know what it is in Toronto anymore. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's the Sky Dome.
Yeah.
And so we took a train. Yeah. So we took a train ride from Montreal. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. There was no planes. We took a train ride from Montreal to the Sky Dome and played there. And took a train ride back. And then the way that they treated their players was a little bit different and given them a lot of freedom. And so I think we do the same thing at Muhlenberg. We have very bright student athletes. We give them a lot of freedom. We give them a lot of mentorship, but in some ways we got to let them grow up here. That's part of the collegiate experience, is letting them grow up and kind of succeed and fail and grow as individuals. So I think there was a lot of that that I took from the CFL.
I'd be remiss in not asking you, of course, about your time at Cortland State and also Susquehanna, Coach Milne. If you want to just, comment on that as well.
Sure. I've been fortunate to work for wonderful mentors. I think that was as big as anything. When I played at Hobart, Mike Craig was the school's all-time winningest coach. Even go back to Jamestown, Wally Hucknall, my high school coach, is Jamestown High School's winningest coach. Dan McNeil at SUNY Cortland was Cortland's winningest coach, is still Cortland's winningest coach, and Steve Briggs at Susquehanna was the head football coach there, and he's Susquehanna's all-time winning coach. And so I think, and then Mike Donnelly at Muhlenberg. Yeah. So I've only worked for the school's all-time winningest head coach, and so I'm very fortunate to have those individuals as mentors. Each institution is a little bit different. And so I think that kind of opens you up to saying there's not one way to the mountaintop. We made the NCAA playoffs at Hobart. We made the NCAA playoffs at Cortland. We made the NCAA playoffs at Susquehanna. We made the NCAA playoffs here at Muhlenberg. And so all four of those institutions are different and unique. And so there's not just one way to the mountaintop. So the way we do things this year may be a little bit different next year, and so on and so forth. And so to have those different experiences at different institutions, I think really allows you to kind of combine things as a head coach, and then to bounce ideas off other people as well. I've had just wonderful experiences every single place that I've been.
It's wonderful. The final two questions, you talked about your wife, Kristen, before, the support from your family. You're a father, your sons, Matthew and Nicholas. I want to ask you, I think you've alluded to, this is a very demanding, profession. It takes a lot of time. You're away from family. I said you're spending so much time, of course, on the field, off the field. Can you talk about what they've meant to you, said here in your football journey, Coach Milne?
Yeah, I have a deep appreciation for my wife, Kristen, and kind of what she's been able to put up with for me. Most people, even without being a football coach, most people would say she's a saint for marrying me anyways. And so she's done just a great job supporting us. And I think once that was kind of a founding of our relationship too. She's an athletic trainer by trade. Okay. And so we kindled our relationship. I always say to everybody at Denny's at SUNY Cortland, it was the only place open when we both got off of work. She had to work the night shift as an athletic trainer, as a GA, and I was working crazy hours. And so we would go to Denny's, and she would have a salad, and I would eat terribly. Most coaches, and so she's been so supportive. Again, to take care of our two children. Sometimes during preseason, the best thing that they do is they go away to see her family in upstate New York, because I'm here all hours of the day. So I have a deep appreciation for all of the coaches' wives out there. They do a wonderful job. We're at a great point with our children as well, where Matthew can kind of be at practice now. And so he's out there and spotting the football and running around and doing some things. And I know Nicholas wants to be out there as well. Nicholas is a little bit of a loose cannon, and so I worry that the players would truck him because he would just wander out onto the football field. But there it is. It's great to see them both kind of enjoy it and to have a wife that fully supports it. I certainly wouldn't be here today without the support of Kristen, and so she's been absolutely great for us.
It's fantastic. And Coach Milne, final question is that. Again, I asked quite a few players and coaches this, and I think you're in absolutely a perfect spot, to answer this or offer this. What your advice, your message is to, not only the younger kids, athletes out there, but people who want to break into the coaching ranks as well, and to have be able to have that level of success that you've been able to obtain. You worked your way, set up the ladder here to reach this point.
Yeah, it's a good question. Number one, it's going to take a village, as you mentioned. My parents really helped out financially, probably early on. And I think that's one of the ones that number one eliminator of people from getting out of coaching is early on financially. The profession is not very kind. And I think it's one of those ones, you know, maybe later on in my career, I'd love to see change, especially at the small college level, is to keep coaches involved. And we need to see the same, almost the same salary I made 15 years ago is what many institutions are offering for first year coaches. So you talk about inflation, you talk about the market, you talk about the change in dynamics, and football coaching has not seen an increase in young coaches' salary. So I think that's a little bit disappointing. But so you do need some support in the ways of your family. The second one, again, is getting married and having children is really, really difficult. Your time becomes crunched. You get demand in different directions. You have to show, you have to be there for your family, you have to be there. And so be ready to make that change and be willing to, what you've done. We always say, as our staff, Coach David always says it as well, some of the most dangerous words in college athletics is that's the way we've always done it. And so you have to be ready to change. And when you have children or when you have a life-changing experience, you know, I used to come in early in the mornings and still do sometimes. But I like to be there for breakfast because I don't know if I'm going to be there for bedtime, or if I can't be there for breakfast because we have morning meetings, I go home for dinner. Or we've been really fortunate. There are nights where my wife makes dinner for our football staff, and to bring Matthew and Nicholas up. You can't just say, well, I've never gone home, I can't go home. You've got to be willing to change in this profession as well. And then don't be afraid to take chances. Take that other job, move around, meet another coach, be proactive. And then maybe the biggest piece of advice is be a great recruiter. Everybody wants great recruiters on their staff. If you're personable, if you build relationships, then those relationships last. We've seen it with our program. Again, year after year after year, the top programs in the state of New Jersey, in Bergen County, they're going to give us a hard look because we've built relationships, A, with their coaches, and then B, with their student athletes. Nick Sirico is coming back to Riverdale and telling Coach Nymphius, wow, I'm having a great time. Lenny Smith told Coach Nymphius the same thing. He was named captain, and our players from Bergen, and our players from Old Tappan, and our players from Demorest, and you go up and down our roster and you see those guys, and we truly believe that they're having a wonderful experience here. So build relationships with high school coaches, be a dynamic recruiter is maybe the one thing in the profession to say, hey, besides all those other life skills that you have, if I can call a coach at the next level, Division I, Division II, whatever your next job may be, and say, this individual can recruit, you've got a leg up on everybody else.
Sounds good. Okay, Coach Milne, I'm going to give you the last word here. If there's anything I've left out, the floor is yours.
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I appreciate the time here, allowing us to focus on a great recruiting base. North Jersey's been wonderful to us. The state of New Jersey, the tri-state area has been really good, along with our local area here in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We've got a number of local players as well. The football here in the Lehigh Valley is very, very strong, and would love to see. You know, they're doing the battle down in Ocean City, and they're doing the battle at Rutgers. Yeah. And, you know, maybe see some Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania crossover. I know we've got the best rivalry in high school sports with Phillipsburg and Easton, which is right across the border. You know, would love to see maybe some more Lehigh Valley teams going against some New Jersey teams as well, if we could ever find the way to do that, because I know the football here in the Lehigh Valley is as good as anywhere in the country. And obviously the same can be said for the state of New Jersey as well. So I think that would be a great. I know we've seen some New York City, New Jersey matchups, and let's see if we can't get some Pennsylvania, New Jersey matchups for high school football as well.
Definitely. Coach Milne, again, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity to interview you this morning. Wishing you, the rest of the coaching staff, the players, I said at Muhlenberg on the football team, all the best in the 2021 regular season.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest. And can't wait to see who you're talking to next.
Thank you.